If you thought that the FTX situation could not get any crazier, let me tell you that you're in for a wild surprise. Because Sam Bankman-Fried just shared some information that I think will shock the entire world. Before we cover it though, guys, make sure you press that like button. I'm on the FTX news like a hawk because so many people were hurt. $10 billion down the drain. We need to make sure that no stone goes unturned and that every single piece of history basically actually becomes history. Let us not waste time with all this blibber blabbering talk and whatever. FTX, well, the whole situation is absolutely screwed. And what does Sam Bankman-Fried have to say about the situation? Well, a little while earlier he said, "What happened?" Not legal advice, not financial advice. This is all as I remember it, but my memory might be faulty in parts. And again, he's done this over a couple of days. He's basically been posting letters every couple of hours for some strange scripted reason. Maybe he put the ED in last for another condition he's been battling. That I do not know. He basically said this. I'll get to what happened, but for now, let's talk about where we are today. To the best of my knowledge, as of post 11/7, so the 7th of November, with the potential for errors, A. Alameda had more assets than liabilities, M2M but not liquid. M2M here being the market to market, or basically the fair value, but again not liquid. Alameda had margin position on FTX. I'm guessing Intel means internal, but that I do not exactly know. And then C, FTX US had enough to repay all the customers. He also ends there with a very interesting note. Not everyone necessarily agrees with this. So the only thing that people cannot agree with then, potentially, would be the fact that Alameda had more assets than liabilities at a fair value because, well, what is a fair value and what does it mean when it's not liquid? But the rest, he has the insight, so these are quote-unquote facts, right? Well, not exactly sure why he has to add there that not everybody will agree with this, if he's trying to basically state these things as facts. The way he's basically describing it right now, this is just like, hey, I wasn't really aware of anything, but what I thought was this. Now, it might not be right, which would mean that we cannot do anything with this information if it may or may not be the correct info. He says his one goal, is to do right by customers. He is contributing, or basically, I'll basically say it the way he write it down. I'm contributing what I can to doing so, which is true. I've actually been reading quite a lot over on Twitter that he's basically trying to get himself more funds over in Asia. To save FTX, we all know they went for a restructuring, a bankruptcy chapter 11. I've actually been trying to do some digging into what companies are still afloat, but at the end of the day, I've had a couple of regulatory advisors come up to me and state that it could be so that some of the main companies are left excluded. However, I was given a tip that Alameda still might have one company that's not actually bankrupt, but as far as I've read right now, every single company that falls under the FTX group, which is 134 of them, they're all bankrupt. They're all, going for bankruptcy. And so that makes me a little bit confused as the insights showcase that FTX.com, even FTX US, which really didn't necessarily have any troubles, and Alameda are all officially affiliated companies and so bankrupt. And so I'm not 1,000% sure if this information is then wrong because we were basically discussing that it was going to be extremely difficult to find all the money. People are also speculating that he obviously hid some money himself. And I'm sorry if you guys can't read everything right here. It's not that important though. What is important is to continue on. I'm contributing what I can to doing so. I am meeting in person with regulators and working with the teams to do what we can for customers. And after that, investors, but first, customers. And that's another very interesting one. I believe as well that the reason why he takes so much time between messages is because obviously things are very stressful for the guy, but also every single message he writes here will be seen by potentially millions of people. So you have to think about them really carefully, especially this tweet right here. The customers over investors type of endeavor is very good from a philanthropic perspective and the greater goal of trying to make the customers happy and, keep the customers happy, customers first, yada, yada. But to actually raise more funds and to keep your investors happy, this is a really bad idea. And so there it comes again with the longevity play of, well, if they want to go for a Chapter 11, but they're putting customers first, it's good for the goodwill, it's good for the outside, saying you're going to go and get those customers whole. You're going to make sure you're going to get those customers to become whole again. Well, but for investors, this is definitely not a nice thing to read, as the worst thing you want in the world is when the company you're investing in is going bankrupt, and the first thing that they're doing is paying everybody money except for you, basically, even though you're the one putting in a lot of money to make it happen. Yeah, you know, if they then fix themselves, you're not as eager to risk your money yet again, right? If even though you're the one bearing more risk than the customers, which is, I think, by definition true, as customers have a choice to just literally store their money in cold wallets. They don't have to keep it on there, basically. There's not really any good purpose of keeping it on there. Whereas with investors, you're potentially building the platform, and so it's different. His goal, to conclude, clean up and focus on transparency, and then again, make customers whole. Now, I think it's interesting to showcase that his tweets are getting a unholy amount of comments, but actually not that many likes on them. I think the main reason behind this is that people are not really happy with what he's doing. And John Deaton is also stating, is it really you tweeting? Then you may actually suffer from a narcissistic potential or personality disorder and might believe that you aren't going to prison. There's also a lot of people here with some very fun tweets like, he's been listing A, B, and whatever. His C would be escape prison. The more I keep reading, the more I also find these bigger threads of how the family ties together and how the connections are played out. It's really honestly quite crazy. If you look at the money, basically, the fact that he was able to raise $1.7 billion for FTX, even though nobody really understands his initial success, that is all pretty weird. The fact that he's donating so much to Biden is pretty damn weird. Why is he the second biggest donor when he's so recently just got his money? Why is he such a big fan? Well, again, because of probably his mom. How is he so why is he so close to all these regulators? Why has he gotten this free pass? Again, because of Gary motherfreaking Gensler. He's gotten some very, very big investors in the past. And I guess a lot of these guys do not want to back them up because even Binance backed the frick off, right? They've been going in front of Congress on multiple different times, even though a lot of others, key players that have been in the space for so much longer have never gotten the chance to do so. It's all because of connections. It's all because of connections. And right now, his connections are not really helping him as he's trying to get money in Asia from the bigger venture funds because they might not be as emotional with all of this. They might just look at the money picture and think, hey, we invest a couple $2 billion, but by saving FTX, we can probably make a lot more money. Whereas the West would be like, meh, let's just not touch all this garbage altogether. I think in Asia, they're a lot more just looking at the numbers, looking at the money, whereas the West, they look a lot more at the feelings, look a lot more at the person and whatnot, but that's just my thoughts. You might also find it interesting that all of this happened just slightly after the midterms, and again, very interestingly, a lot of these dates align with the actual crypto regulation pieces. Some are putting up that this was all a big money launder scheme through FTX. Some are saying that this was all Gary Gensler's plan to actually get crypto regulation in. Some are saying he's the one being sacrificed right now for a greater political goal. I do not know, but it is very interesting to watch though. I've also been reading more and more about the hack. Now, the most recent news that we have, however, is only that they're trying to basically move money into Ethereum and that they are very massive Ethereum whales. It again still could be very much so that this is actually Sam Bankman-Fried or one of his affiliates or one of his closers buys themselves. FTX accounts drainer swaps millions in stolen crypto, becomes the 35th largest Ether holder. To some degree, it's quite interesting that this is not more mainstream. I'm honestly kind of confused and kind of surprised that this is not making the mainstream news more often, as you'd kind of think that stealing so ridiculously much money will become a way bigger deal, but it's not. Again, their main drainer, the FTX account drainer, currently holds over $200 million inside of it still. Yet, really, not that many people seem to care about it, as it's not really the biggest of news for some strange reason. You could surely make the argument that it's all a cover-up. I mean, a hack could surely be the cover-up for the FTX story, but also opposite way around. Because of the whole FTX debacle, who cares about a little 400, 600, whatever $million hack? We were just talking about what Sam Bankman-Fried might want though, right? Well, he wants regulation. He's gotten some very strange, I guess, treatment from the regulators. This might all be a regulatory push. Take a look actually at this. We've talked before about how Ripple actually does so much more for the crypto space than some of these companies that move out. Well, BitLord found at this stage, we can't identify any local laws broken by the exchange. We will continue to work with international agencies as the case develops, but as of today, Sam is free to go by the Bahamian police force. And actually, Now you know why Sam Bankman-Fried went to the Bahamas. This is what happens when you have zero regulatory clarity in the United States, but have an SEC chairman who insists it's always been crystal clear. Even though he's on video in 2018 saying the crypto market needed clarity, a disgrace. And again, we can draw this story more and more towards Ripple, but I personally think that lying to this degree that he's potentially done is very freaking illegal, very bad. I'm not so sure exactly how these local laws apply to, because you got to understand, there are 134 companies. Which of them exactly are in the Bahamas, and which of them officially did things wrong? It's really hard to pinpoint, and that again might all be because of that little family network of things. It might be because, well, he was very well connected. They knew exactly how to set up companies so that he would never get into actual trouble. Again, I don't have to keep reminding you what the ripple effects of all of this are. For example, the fact that BlockFi, which again, FTX basically helped out, it also got bankrupt. Yeah, and actually, the more I've been basically reading through things that I've liked over on Twitter and things I've been looking into, the more and more it looks like one grand conspiracy. You guys all know his parents were very well connected. We're not exactly sure which of these conspiracies is true, but again, look at what Benny Johnson also said. FTX was a money laundering scam for Democrats. $50 million spent on electing Dems this cycle. Will a single Democrat return the money given to his campaigns through theft and regular American savings? This should be the biggest scandal in the world right now. But as you guys might be able to see from the right, all of a sudden, some way heavier things are going on over in the Poland region. Again, I do not want to speak out about this too much over on my crypto YouTube channel right here, but the situation is quite dire. And honestly, I do not want to state that those two things are connected, but I honestly just think that Sam Bankman-Fried might literally get off scotch-free. The Bahama guys don't think he really did too much wrong, and because of the structuring of companies, he literally might be in a good spot. He's now claiming a couple of new goals. Again, to just quickly summarize it, one goal is to do right by the customers. I'm contributing what I can to doing so. I'm meeting in person with regulators and working with the teams to do what we can for customers. It's actually interesting he's still able to meet in person with regulators. How could that be the case even now? Is this all a big troll? You know, how exactly can he tweet this still? Why is he not in custody? Well, is it because Bahamian police just let him go? But are they not going to detain him afterwards? Is he going to get sued in the U.S.? Well, can he get sued in the U.S. if they're filing for Chapter 11 bankruptcy? He says his goal is to clean up and focus on transparency and make customers whole. But like ZachXBT said, that ship has already sailed, because what he's literally trying to say is my goal is to focus on transparency. You can't say that after you've hidden $10 billion, right? You can't say that. Nobody's going to trust you anymore. T.O.B. or Bav said actually this, sent a little letter from a couple months ago, meeting with EIX and FTX. On March 23rd, members of the staff of Gary Gensler met with staff of FTX to discuss custody of digital asset securities by special purpose broker-dealers, including the unique risks associated with custody of digital asset securities and the conditional no action relief discussed in the statement. I see. So potentially some no action relief was already discussed as well. Sam Bankman-Fried was also in attendance. Yeah, I still don't fully understand exactly why he's thinking that cryptic messages are a good thing. I'm honestly seeing exactly zero reasons why this is a very smart move. Hasaka said, Elon, can we get this account deleted before these tweets are cited in court as evidence for how this fraudulent, psychopathic liar tried to do right by all customers till the last moment? Because at the end of the day, guys, if this was all one big scheme, they're probably going to use this to his defense, saying, oh, look at what he tweeted out. This was even before he got sued. I'm not sure, but there's probably a lot of people already looking into some crazy lawsuits, if that's even possible after they filed for bankruptcy like this. I guess people want to see him personally accountable for things, but again, I don't know how that works, if he's a Bahamian, potentially citizen or just resident, as maybe the regulations there work really strangely, and he probably chose that place for a good reason. That's it for right now though, guys. I'm just giving you the updates whenever I find them. This is Sam Bankman-Fried's latest endeavor, just updating you guys on the situation. It is pretty strange, it's pretty scary to see that this maniac, as far as I know, has been walking around for such a long while. I really wonder what the next step is going to be. Is he going to be able to raise money? Is it really his goal to get customers' funds back? Was his Twitter hacked? Is he really released from prison? Are all the companies that FTX was associated with going bankrupt? As we've obviously had a couple of different guys like BlockFi now going for bankruptcy as well. Which one's going to be next on the chopping block? Which exchange? Liquid Exchange stopped withdrawals. AAX Exchange has stopped withdrawals. Which exchange is going to be next on the chopping block? It's very interesting to watch, and I'll keep you guys in the loop, but that's it for right now.